Right, good morning. It is 9 a.m. on the dot. I'm going to call this meeting to order. First agenda item, approval of the minutes.
Minutes, so moved.
All right.
I don't stop working this morning.
Anything pulled off of consent?
No, nothing. No, it's planned.
All right, we will go right into general business. 4A 2025 police audit plan and firearm inventory review results. This is going to be exciting. Are we going to be able to review all the firearm inventory in 10 minutes, Michelle?
But we are. We're gonna go rapid fire.
I am so excited to see what we have in inventory.
So Michelle Crawford, City Auditor. So gonna give you an update on the 2025 audit plan. That'll include body-worn camera compliance, and that is actually starting this week. It'll include DNA processing and handling, and then property and evidence inventory, and that'll be advisory. We've done that historically, so that one will be a full scope audit, a little bit narrow focus, more of a spot check. The next up is inventory review results. This was conducted in accordance with our audit standards. The inventory had 3 objectives: determine whether or not the department adequately manages its firearms inventory to prevent loss or misuse, determine if the department accurately tracks whether sworn members completed required firearms training, and if the department had adequate controls and procedures for firearms when members separated or when firearms were traded. Our overall conclusion was the department does not have adequate procedures in place to manage its inventory. It needs to improve its tracking for training. It does not have adequate controls for trading or transferring of firearms. A little bit of background, we did complete a prior audit in this area in 2017. Since that time, the department had added individually assigned handguns that were department purchased, 40mm launchers, and they also had changed inventory systems. Inventory responsibility at the time of the audit was spread across the department, including SWAT, ERT, the range, districts, and other areas. It was more decentralized. For this audit, we did do 100% counts. So we looked at 100% of shotguns, rifles, 40mm launchers, unassigned handguns, and around 50% of assigned handguns. So we did physically see those weapons. The first finding we have is the department could not locate one less lethal shotgun. Our recommendation was to file a police report for that missing weapon, and they did so in November. And some of the next issues will kind of say what likely contributed to that. Inventory records were not accurate or complete. So the inventory system did not include 7 rifles that were purchased in 2019, 26 40mm launchers that were purchased between 2021 and 2023. It did include 45 shotguns that had been transferred to other law enforcement agencies and 10 rifles that had been traded for credit. Additionally, assignments in the system, so when an officer is assigned a specific weapon, the assignments tracked in the system. Of those assignments, they were inaccurate for 22% of rifles, 35% of shotguns, and 64% of the 40mm launchers. We had 2 recommendations. The first was to develop procedures to update inventory records timely, and the second was to update the inventory system records for accurate assignments, and the department did complete that in October. No units or districts completed all the inventory requirements. Police policy does have specific requirements for the frequency of inventories and where they should be being sent. Of all the units listed above, we looked to whether or not we can find adequate support and whether or not the inventory was accurate, and nobody met all of the criteria. Our recommendation is to complete inventories as required by policies and assign responsibility for collecting and reviewing those completed inventories to a centralized unit. When an officer is assigned a weapon, they should be signing for that weapon to document their acceptance of it and responsibility. We looked at approximately 50 weapons broken out up there on the screen by type. And of those, handguns were missing 56% of signatures, shotguns 90%, rifles 70%, and then 40s were 100%. We did note for the handgun assignments, the inventory signature capture was not fully working when they rolled those out, and that likely contributed to the higher rate of non-compliance on those. Our recommendation is that all units authorized to assign weapons should be capturing the signature of the receiving or departing member using the system or another method if it's not working, and the department should identify and recapture signatures for any assigned weapons currently. For weapons qualifications, police policy does require officers to qualify or to complete a qualification course on all of the weapons. Of the qualifications we reviewed, specifically for rifles and breaching shotguns, we found non-compliance with policy. The department did implement some improved qualification tracking in 2023. The prior tracking was not searchable, so it's harder to tell when someone had not fully qualified. Our recommendation is to centralize responsibility and authority for tracking qualifications and a failure to qualify, and to update policies and procedures to clarify that members must qualify or recertify annually, or they need to turn that weapon back in. For trades and transfers of firearms, they lacked proper approvals, assessment of who's receiving the weapons, and the inventory system was not updated as previously noted. Additionally, the department does not have procedures outlining the process. And so our recommendation is to develop the policy outlining whether or not trades and transfers are allowed. And if they are going to be allowed, then there does need to be the police chief's approval if it's being traded in ATF standing and documentation for the vendor, and then other areas that are outlined more specifically in the audit report. The overall weapons purchases and systems updates for purchase was very decentralized, and this caused some of the issues that we found. Our recommendation is to clearly outline responsibility for the process of purchasing weapons and ensure it involves the range being responsible for receiving purchased firearms and entering them into the system prior to being reassigned. The inventory management system is not meeting the department's needs. It is very difficult to use, and we did experience a lot of data quality issues throughout the audit. Our recommendation is to explore other software systems, evaluating if they could better meet needs and determine the feasibility of costs of a new system. When members leave the agency, they sign off on an end of employment form, which is documenting the return of weapons. We reviewed 28 forms, and of those, the range line was only signed by 2 range officers. Other units were signing on behalf of the range for receipt of those weapons. Our recommendation is to evaluate if the current form is going to continue to be used. If it is, policy should be updated to outline who is actually authorized to sign on behalf of the range to make sure the weapons were returned. And then access controls. So there were 4 rooms with weapons that did have inadequate access controls. 1 room was accessible to IT, facilities, court employees, city employees, and unidentified individuals. This was addressed and corrected during the audit. For the other areas, due to ongoing security vulnerabilities, we cannot publicly discuss what those are. We do recommend working with city departments to, again, address access control deficiencies. Overall, the department did accept and agree to all recommendations, and as noted, they did begin addressing some of those recommendations during the audit. And with that, are there any questions?
Chief?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I entirely agree. There was some faulty business practices without question. They needed to be modified and corrected. I appreciate her audit and what she did. And I completely stand by everything that she says because I agree with 100% of it. And we have modified many of those systems that we've modified many of the systems within the organization. I can go down the list of them and give it to you where we're at if you'd like to hear it. In regards to the inventory records need, not accurate. We updated the inventory as of 10/24/24, and all of that is now captured. On firearms inventory, again, we have our quality assurance unit that is now tracking all firearms for the 2025 assessment calendar. In regards to the signature for receipts of weapons, again, we are now actively capturing all of those and the qualification and inspection through Q1. So all that is set in place. In regards to the weapon qualifications, all weapon qualifications will be administered by range staff to ensure accurate tracking as opposed to individual units. So that is in place. In regards to the trade and transfer of firearms, the QA unit, our quality assurance unit, is developing a policy right now to outline the procedures for trades and transfers of firearms, again, which there are quite a few. We used to have less lethal beanbag shotguns. Those are all just kind of sit in the back room somewhere. So we're looking at the opportunity of trading those for a credit for other weapon systems. And again, that was something where I think it was just kind of thrown in the back. And I think you got the same kind of vibe on that a little bit, but that's what it was. It was completely on track, completely on scrutinized. So that is being modified. In regard to centralized weapon purchases, the range is now the sole source receiver of any weapon. So as opposed to individual units. Again, there was a lot of, I would say, siloed behavior amongst the department and the agency where they would basically look at their unit and their unit only. And then there was very limited control by the COP. Everything was kind of just, hey, we're going to take care of our unit and budget. And it would go through certain places and certain contacts. And there was no centralized process to it in any way. So that has been modified now. The QA unit is developing policy and procedures and our SOPs to outline the procedures for that. And then on the inventory management system, our RFP is in works for a new system, which is ongoing. So we're looking at different vendors and traders who can come out and kind of bring some clarity to the inventory that we have. And then as far as access control, again, a lot of that is what we are going to work through with the city on IT level. And again, all of the recommendations, all of the things that were brought up, all of the things that have been discovered even since that are being addressed. It is going to be a process.
And making sure that we have a very secured area where we don't have random personnel, IT,
Yeah.
other staff getting into.
Absolutely.
And that's not uncommon. So for the last 2 audits I just released last week to MNF also had access control findings. And so we're seeing it across the city. And so I know PD's addressed one of them and I know there's active efforts to address the other ones too, but that's part of a broader issue, I would say,
Well, I'm
across the city.
concerned about unauthorized access to guns more so than whatever is M&F. But,
And that has all been addressed.
okay,
It's unfortunate it had to be found. It's unfortunate that was the system, but it's been addressed and it's been
Right.
rectified. And we're doing self audits too, besides the macros that she does. We're doing actually micros. And those micros are gonna focus specifically on items like this.
and in our department, officers take their weapons home with them.
They can,
They can,
yes.
but they don't have to.
They don't have to, no.
So we do have an armory where they can turn it back in
Yeah.
after their shift. Okay.
And there's centralized, tracking of all the weapons across the department, right?
Like not
Because it
just
sounds
based on
like
the
they were-
divisions or the units or
Yeah.
SWAT wanted to go out and purchase something and they just make that happen, or K-9 wanted to go get something, or a DART team wanted. Now it's all a centralized process. It's all gonna be done through the quality assurance unit in accordance with the training unit.
The qualifications on weapons, you're saying that's centralized at the
Range,
range.
yes,
So they're
Only by-
responsible
only by the range personnel. too.
only by range personnel. So
Yes.
the weapons, the ammunition, all those things.
Yes.
Certification, is that out there as well? How often do they have to be? Is that part of this?
Yeah, they certify annually, do it continually, yes.
Yeah, that's how the military do.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much for that.
Yep.
Public Safety Action Plan update. That's you.
Hey, what up? Stuff that I'm going through.
157, page 157.
Got it. The first part is crime reduction plan updates, the April 2025 data report. Chief, if you want. Metrics, this is section 1. This is the resources.
Yep. Yeah, our resource right now, where we're at, we are still at 748 as far as overall staffing. Currently, we have 690 total. We have 58 vacancies. Operational staffing, we're at 591. We have modified on duty. We have 8 that are light duty. We have 4 that are in military. We have 4 that are injured leave. We have 2 that are restricted. Right now in our training class, we have 37 that are just getting ready to come out. So that's going to alleviate some of our staffing issues without question.
Wait, we started that with 50?
No, that's another class. That's the
Oh,
recruit class.
oh, okay.
Yeah, this is the people that are doing field training.
Okay,
So they're actually riding with trainers.
Yeah.
That's 37. Our recruit class right now is at 44. We
Okay.
started with 52. Again, that is an attrition rate, but that attrition rate doesn't matter if it was 20 or if it was 54. Percentage wise, we're still in the same category. People will always drop off. And so even though it's a larger class, it's like, man, how did we go from 52 to 44? Percentage wise, we're still in the norm as if, even if it was a smaller class and one dropped out.
Yeah.
It wouldn't seem so, poignant, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
So that's where we are as far as staffing. Working patrol right now, we have 199 working patrol. Not working patrol, we have 7. We have 1 that's on light duty, 3 that's on military, 1 that's on injured. So that's where we're at. As far as our staffing across the board, again, we are still in that position where we are moving forward. Our crime rate is still down. We are down 22.7% as far as our overall crime. But staffing is and always will be a concern. I brought it up in the last meeting. If we looked at a staffing level of 2 to 1, we would be at about 808 officers right now. That's where the city should be. If we looked at 2.5, which is the FBI, the BJA average, we would probably be somewhere more in the area of, and I got that because I wrote it down, would be somewhere in the area 2.4, it would put us somewhere around 889 officers. If it was 2.2 per 1,000 for the staffing for the city of Aurora, if we just went on the basis of 2 per 1,000, it would put us at 808. So even with these numbers, even though we're authorized for 748, that basically stopped about 3 or 4 years ago with the city population. Obviously, the population has grown, the complexity of the job has grown, and that's where we're looking at when we set up these numbers.
7 that are in FTO right now. I don't know what your plans are for these 37, but I would like to see patrol get up to that 219.
So would I,
And in fact, I would like to see, maybe all of them go to patrol, for right now. I would like a harder emphasis on traffic. You guys have been doing really good cracking down on traffic. I'm getting a lot of feedback. People are seeing more police officers. People are seeing folks being pulled over. So just my 2 cents, those 37 FTOs, I would love to see that 219 number filled on patrol. And then an emphasis potentially with the rest or more senior patrol guys, for traffic. I think that would be really great. I also want to say, at Monday night's council meeting, there was an unjust comment that came against you, and I want to clear the record. The Aurora Save program, what the public needs to understand, is that, yeah, we can't say save everybody, and that would be the ideal, right? Is to stop all of the youth violence and the youth shooting. But what's not mentioned is that we are on our 6th week now, I believe, with no fatal shootings, with juveniles. And I feel there was an unjust comment made Monday night, by one of my colleagues, and I want to clear the record. I want the public to know that the SAFE team is incredible. They're doing incredible work. And I think for the first time, and I don't even know how long, in Aurora's history, we are now, knock on wood, on our 6th week of no fatal shootings amongst youth. So I wanted to highlight that here in this meeting. Do you have anything?
I also wanted to say, I am very appreciative of the increased presence of officers on the road, particularly on Parker Corridor, as you know, is a pain point with street racing and those kind of things. And, these past few weeks, it's been very refreshing not to hear constant street racing between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. I'm noticing a difference, and the impact that the officers are making, being on the street, has been markedly noticeable. And I just wanted to give a shout out to the officers and the work that you're doing under your leadership. And I think the changes have really been impactful, and I think our residents are starting to feel them too.
I hope so. Without question, our speeding violations have gone up drastically as far as citations. Right, year to date, we're at 1,914. And we're hitting an average of somewhere in the area, citywide, of about 884 per March. And so again, our citations issuance has gone up. It has driven our traffic statistics again, where we are usually, in regards to traffic violations, they are down. So it is working having them out there. In regards to the staffing levels, I can't do 219, but I can do 215.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking at, what we're hopefully going to do with those units. The other ones are going to be pushing into other areas, not them, but people are going to be coming out of patrols to go work other units, search holes. So these new ones will be dropping into it, but we will get close.
Okay.
And the Aurora Save, you're right. The last shooting we had, again, like I've always said, I can control law enforcement. I can't control courts or corrections.
Right.
And the last shooting that we had up on Peoria, it involved an individual who had multiple arrests for violence. He drove by a group of teens that were standing out in a parking garage. He had no clue who they were. He fired that weapon. He was actually released on custody. He was wearing a monitor. He has violence. And again, he should have been incarcerated, and he wasn't. And so again, that's what we're doing, a press release talking about it too. Because what we can do, we can control, and we're being very proactive of that. What we can is still issues, in my humble opinion, failures with the court systems.
And that was roughly 6 weeks ago,
No, that one was just occurred this weekend.
but it was not fatal.
It was not fatal.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what yeah, okay.
You're completely right.
Yeah, I just would like that highlighted. I think that the media, and I think, again, an unfortunate comment Monday night, but I think that that's not highlighted enough. And I think that the Aurora Save team is a phenomenal team. And I think that the public needs to know that, yeah, we can't save everyone, that he was called Aurora Save, but the fact that the non-fatal shootings, that we're going into our 6th week, I really think that this needs to be highlighted better, especially for our city. this needs to be highlighted better because the work that team specifically is doing is just incredible. I mean, 6 weeks is a big deal for this city, and I don't think it's being made a big enough deal what this team is doing. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to highlight that.
And to add to that also, the improvement in what the APD is doing. I mean, everyone's been dogpiling about how APDs, this and that, all the negative things, but to highlight the positive work that is being done, the critical changes that are being made, and the upswing in not only in law enforcement, traffic enforcement, and safety overall that the APD is doing under your leadership has been.
Well, thank you. And we have a really incredible team, and every member that you mentioned on Aurora Save, again, from the commander to the lieutenant, they are completely committed to that role.
Yes.
And they are committed, I mean, beyond, and again, that has really resonated in a lot of ways, and also the proactive policing of our officers.
Yeah.
That's what's changed it.
Mayor.
Thank you. Chief, where are we at in terms of trying to get better participation in Aurora Save? Because that's been a problem.
Yeah, it's been really nice. I reached out to Amy Patton, had a conversation with her and her chief of staff. We have another meeting set up with that group, which includes judges, and we're going to try to get an amendment onto the motions when they get released, where they have to attend meetings. It's something that should not have to occur, because if they're on probation, they have to attend any meeting, but they're going to make it Aurora Save specific so that they will have to attend those Aurora Save meetings. So again, that is one of the steps we're taking. I'm meeting with I'm sorry, Pete, what's his name up in, the DA up in that direction?
Right.
Mason.
Right.
Mason, yeah, I'm meeting with Mason again this week to have another discussion on trying to get them connected into this. So again, it's not a fight that's up in any way. But I will tell you, whether we get 3 or whether we get 30, we're still going to keep moving forward on this, because each one of those lives, not only do I hope for them, but I also hope for the lives that they are impacting. Because it's like I said on the last one, those 3 individuals that came in, Mayor, they were involved basically with about 25, if you did a network analysis, they were involved with about 25 separate incidents that involved shootings and carnage. And so we're going to go fight.
I want to add to that participation piece. That's just the call-in, but right now we have about 22 youth that are on our caseload working with Justice Works, which is our case manager. And they're working with our partners, Struggle, Glove, and all of those folks as well to be connected to services. And so whenever we still do the customs every single Wednesday night, it's anywhere from kind of 3 to about 6 customs that are done at the door. And then those youth get engaged from there. So even if we only had 3 show up to the call-in, we still have a caseload of youth that we're working with. I'm jumping ahead a little, but we're at 133 that we've customed over the past about year and a half. So
It's great.
it's still going, the program, even if they didn't show up there.
It's a Department of Justice grant.
No, so this is just what we're doing with city funds and marijuana funds. The BJA grant we're waiting on, and so we got an award letter in September. We have not received grant documents. I don't think they did not meet with us in DC last week. But we are trying to run that down. Liz Rogers is also engaged. And so that's a $1.9 million that we're waiting on that would help us fund this program. And we had intended for that money to be part of the 2025 and 2026 budget. It's a 2-year grant. So they did not put out the notice of funding again for this year. And it's kind of in limbo right now, but we're working with what we can to try to get answers to say, can we get our actual final grant agreements done? So.
And Jessica,
So normally, all officers go to patrol first, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They do.
And then, on the traffic issue, where are we at with a contract for this mobile radar system?
Yeah, we are reviewing that right now. We have 2 vendors that we're looking at. We don't know if we're going to go sole source on it based upon the cost. One is really, really high, and it's a lot of oversight. It's going to involve a lot of personnel. The other one, the price is much lower, but I don't know if we're going to get the full impact of what we're trying to get on it. So the evaluation is still ongoing, but we are moving forward with that, and I can give you really specific
So
details.
what do you mean by it involves a lot of personnel? Because the problem with the last contract
Yeah.
was that we assumed responsibility from a personnel standpoint to maintain it, to operate the systems.
Yep, and that's what I don't want to go into in photo. Some photo red lights are like that. Again, whether they're speed or whether they're an intersection, because there'll be complaints, hey, that is the correct one or not a correct one. And as non-sworn looking at it would have to say, well, yeah, I don't really know. Another sworn has to come into it. And so that's what we're trying to avoid, is that process, because different companies do different things. So we're trying to get the one that has the least impact on our personnel staffing and also the least cost, but still effective. And we're looking at it very heavy. And into Aurora State, just one last thing, I think it might be a point of interest because it kind of brings the verbiage down to reality. Last night they went out, they did 6 contacts into one family, and then they did 4 separate. And so that just happened in last night. So it's not stopping. Then again, like you said, we're not going to impact everybody. There's going to be some people that'll say, I could care less. But even if you get that one person that says, hey, listen, I'm going to change or go another trajectory, that's huge.
Yeah.
Anecdotally, it's very hard because it's not based a lot on statistics, but it's based upon seeing the impact. And it's definitely, I think, when you look at statistics, you hope that this process, in combination with proactive policing, in combination with stops, in combination with a lot of things, is having the impact that we're striving for.
And Jessica, correct me if I'm wrong, but we actually as a council voted on this funding. Wasn't this what Councilmember Lawson had brought forward instead of funding all of these different nonprofits? We are just putting it into, it's the same marijuana monies, but we're just now putting it into this Aurora Save program. And this is what we are wholly focused on, down to 3, working with 3 nonprofits. Correct? That's the funding.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
realigned. So
Yeah.
it's the 2 school districts and the JAC, and then obviously,
Yeah.
you know, funding our other partners for case management. And then
I knew we
with
had
the
voted
federal,
on
we
this.
would fund the violence interrupters, which is a nonprofit, but they're working specifically for us.
Yeah.
The same program.
Yeah, I just, like I said, there was a comment made Monday night, it didn't sit right with me. And I wanted to, really highlight the SAVE program, and the work that they have been doing. And again, the fact that we are going into our 6th week without any, with no non-fatal, shootings. So I just wanted to, if you could pass that along to the team. I appreciate what they're doing, even if they are not getting the credit for it.
Oh, they are definitely getting the credit.
Okay.
Yeah, they deserve the credit and they should have the credit.
Thank you.
And
Please,
thank you for
please
acknowledging them.
extend my
Yep.
support,
Thank
my
you for acknowledging them.
appreciation.
Sure. Chief, do you have any, just, I've been waiting at it. How does the June class look?
The June class right now, we had a total of, there's 6 that just accepted pre-employment. There's a total of 20 that are on the first phase that have been brought into it that are going to be good. The second phase, which is the review right now, we should be looking at about another 20. So we should have a class of about 42 or so.
Nice.
So we're hoping for it. And then there'll be a trit out. We'll probably end up with, I'd say somewhere in the area of 36 and 37 by the time it's done. We usually will lose a couple when they go into field training because it's just not their thing. So hopefully we're going to have about 30. So we're building up to what our authorized positions are.
Yeah, that's great. Very encouraging.
So section 2, the only thing is the murder rate was, for the 4 week up 300%, but overall down 36.4%. Everything else is down significantly too. Non-fatal shootings, robbery, motor vehicle theft. That's impressive, 43% decrease.
Yeah, that's huge.
And that's based on the pursuits, I think, without question.
Yeah, I think that's,
Well, and the presence.
Yeah.
The police presence, I think so too.
And on our homicides, all of them are cleared. So there's no outstanding right now.
Wow.
This year to date, we're 100% clearing.
that's impressive.
All homicides.
What do you mean by define that?
We've
Arrested.
They've all been
They've
arrested.
all been arrested. Okay.
All right, any more questions, section 2?
No.
All right, moving on to section 3. This is the A-Grid program and youth violence. I know we've talked a lot about that already, the
Yeah.
word save. There's a couple success stories, but Jessica, I don't know if you have anything else to add. Okay, any further questions on section 3? All right, moving on to section 4, the CRT team, the crisis response. Lisa?
I'm here.
Okay.
The team, yeah, so nothing specifically to highlight, just if you scroll down, there's some, a couple updates. UC Health continues to be a good partner. They're getting positions filled. The 3rd team is up and going. There's a few success stories here. We were able to deal with somebody that's one of those chronic 911 callers for every little thing going on in their life. And so they were able to address that, which was a nice success story. Always like highlighting some of the hospital diversions. And I will just mention as well, for related to the crisis teams as well as the homelessness piece, working a little bit more specifically with PD on overdose deaths and tracking those, and being able to identify those and mitigate those. We've had 160 since the beginning of the year overdose deaths in Aurora. And so you'll be seeing coming to council in May some recommendations related to our opioid funds, and how we help mitigate some of those parts and pieces. And there's also just highlighting a story, if we move down to any questions on the crisis teams?
I just have one question. And I don't know how these numbers are counted, but if someone, because there's that order right there for Denver and Aurora, and if they're taken to an Aurora hospital, if they did the drugs in Denver, they're taken to an Aurora hospital, they die from an overdose in an Aurora hospital, is it counted as an Aurora death? Are we counting that?
A good question. I
Do we
can
know how
get
to-
back to you on that. I'm not sure,
Okay, okay.
if that's going.
I'm just-
One
I'm
of the
just- I'm
county
just
coroner's
curious.
offices to make that determination, or it's made
Okay,
on scene, but
okay,
that's the number we have right now, but I can follow up on
okay.
that.
Yeah,
Can we take people to our, emergency room as well, there's Southern Aurora, they tend to go to Parker.
Yeah, I would think it's where the incident occurred, but
where it occurred. Okay.
well, I'll follow up.
Yeah, I'm just curious because of the hospital complex that they're,
In the homelessness realm, we had a really warm winter, and so we were able to continue doing abatements. We're seeing some of our abatement areas shift a little bit. We knew that would happen as we, had a greater focus on kind of the 225 corridor. But the great work with the HEART team, they're bringing on more folks. We're really focused on businesses, code, and that team have been able to work together with some commercial areas as well and see some success. So we're continuing with that piece. And the number is not in here for sheltering, but over the winter months, we've now shut down that emergency every night shelter at the new navigation campus. We're doing every night shelter now at the Day Resource Center until it fully opens. We had to move out of there so they could finish the construction over there. But we were seeing on average about 100 to 140 people every night. People are accepting coming in for those shelter services. Advance has been doing a great job with that, getting it up and running and organized. So the Day Resource Center will be activated until October, November, when we're able to open the navigation campus. And just noting our street outreach team is, cataloging everything with data, and 99% of people are accepting services. That might not mean that they're going inside to shelter that night, but they're willing to work with them in terms of getting documentation, IDs, starting to think about employment, starting to think about their medical needs or mental health needs. And so they're seeing a lot of success there. And then we've had several folks matched to housing. Just of note, the housing vouchers that the state gave us associated with the navigation campus, we have access to now, even though the navigation campus isn't open. So that's what we've been using for a lot of the veterans we've housed and other folks. So that's there. And then kind of different than what we would normally put in here. There's a success story, and then just kind of noting for the street outreach team, it takes several months to get someone from living on the streets to any type of rehabilitation to housing. And we had someone that was matched to one of those vouchers. They were waiting on their housing, and we had them in a hotel room for a week before their lease started, and they died. And that's hard for the team because they've worked with that person for several months to get them there. So a little different. We wouldn't normally include this in this report, but just trying to show that it takes several months to get someone there to housing from, living in a encampment or a tent or on the streets. And that's really what those vouchers are working with folks. So we'll be excited to have the navigation campus up and running and have another interim place for someone to go. So we don't have to utilize hotel rooms as much in that interim time before their lease starts.
and so right now with the homeless navigation campus, staff is running that, when will our partner step in?
Oh, the partner Advance has been running it since October
Oh,
of last year.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're in, we utilized it temporarily, the ballrooms over the winter for cold weather shelter because we were seeing higher numbers than we could fit in the day resource center. Very hard to operate the day center and overnight in the same space. So we utilized those ballrooms, but now they need to be under construction over the summer to get the
Okay.
navigation
And
campus
then
ready.
Advance will be totally.
Yeah, so Advance has their administrative offices already operating out of the navigation campus.
Okay.
And then they're operating the day resource center, and then everything will shut down at the day resource center.
I gotcha.
Everything will be at the navigation campus.
Okay,
What day?
I got you.
Well, construction schedules, but we're saying October, November-ish.
So, why would we use vouchers now if we can use the Aurora Day Resource Center in the day? And then we transport them to, the, Navigation Resource Center at night?
We're only using the navigation, or we're only using the day resource center at night and during the day for the next few months until it opens. Correct.
Okay, so that's.
We were transparent, we stopped on,
That is-
correct. Yeah, as of April 17th, so we have another few days, but then we're transitioning there. And then the voucher is not a hotel voucher, it's a housing voucher. So it is a housing voucher mixed with services. The state gave us 37 of those when they gave us the money for purchasing the navigation campus. So that's ongoing.
How long does that, I mean, that'd be a nice separate presentation of that.
We could do
That, and how long that's for.
Forever. I mean, for as long, I mean, unless something changes with the state voucher.
Put that into the, I think we're trying to get.
Not for the individual, it's attached to the navigation campus. So people have to qualify for them that are at the navigation campus. And then they would be placed in housing, and then it's like a normal voucher. You have to meet their criteria.
Yeah.
That's consistent with.
They're connected to the campus and the criteria that's established there for when someone is at the point where they're ready for housing. Yeah, and Advance will be running those along with the housing authority as our housing navigator right now, but that may change.
Thank you.
So yeah, do it, yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. 4C, case management name change to court services.
Pretty easy. We're just changing our name for compensation and for recruitment purposes because everyone thought they were going to manage cases. So we changed to court services to better define what we do.
Yeah, that's pretty straight up.
Generally, when we changed, and just to let you all know, give you this question is, why are we doing an ordinance for this? Because she's the director, she can change the names because there's code sections that mention it. So that's why we're doing it. I know you guys don't really care, but just for the record, that's why we're having to do an ordinance. So it goes through the city code. So
All right.
All right.
any objection to 4C moving forward?
Nope.
All right, and that will move forward.
Did anyone have any miscellaneous matters for consideration? Would fire or 911 like to speak? Does anybody have anything they would like to say?
Got a couple things to contribute.
Go ahead.
Good news. So I want to make you aware that our department's professional development team has achieved a national accreditation for our training program. Out of 6,000 911 centers approximately, we become the 103rd organization in the nation to achieve this accreditation and the 9th in Colorado. So it was a big labor of love for our professional development team, and we're very proud of them to achieve that. Additionally, next week is our National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. It's always the second week in April to celebrate the 911 profession. We are meeting with Mayor Kaufman this morning to do a presentation of a proclamation at 11 a.m. So if you're around, you're welcome to join us. And we are beginning an academy class of 8 on the 21st of April.
Are we still pretty fully staffed?
So we are, and this class of 8 will actually push us over our allocation. a heads up for all of you that I am doing similar work to Chief Chamberlain with the changes in some of the complexities and the volume of how we're processing calls and how we're supporting our departments. I'll be circling back with some information about truly our bandwidth and maybe some adjustments that we need to pursue to align.
Thank you so much for that.
Congratulations.
I guess I do have a few things.
All right.
Just updating, we're still doing the free cancer screening for all the firefighters. We got a grant. So all the firefighters that want to do updated cancer screening, so it's way more than you get from your Kaiser physical. So heavy metals, it's almost like a hazmat physical. So we're doing that. We also have a new single layer gear. Everybody knows that the finger gear still has PFAS in it. This way they can wear their single layer gear on car wrecks, EMS calls, that kind of stuff. We'll still wear our bunker gear at fire calls. But it's all about cancer. One of the things we also did, not sure everybody's aware, but Aurora has one of the highest success rates of cardiac events. That's because of the fire department and, when police shows up, start early CPR. We're going to try something different now. We're still doing all the training, but we're going to add another ALS rig. Specifically speaking, a rescue or another engine or a ladder truck, just to make sure that we're doing everything we can. There's been some national numbers out there that show that it has made a difference. So we're going to start doing that too. Let's see, weather protocols. So yesterday was Red Flag Day, so we staffed all the brush trucks. We did have numerous fires along the railway up on Smith Road yesterday afternoon because of the railroad. So that is one thing you'll start seeing again. And then another thing that we've done too is that we've noticed that some of our calls we were doing the right response, so it may only get an ambulance. But on cold weather days, we're adding an ALS rig to it. So just because of the amount of things that can go wrong when it may sound like a BLS call, but when it's 20 degrees out, there's probably more going on than just what they're calling in for. So we're updating that response. One of the other things, a hot topic, we just did a new EV policy and training. So electric vehicle fires, we did have one. And part of that protocol is sometimes we just let it burn due to the amount of water overflow. So during that fire that we did have, we contacted the water department because it would have gone into Toll Creek. So if we would have put that fire out, which would have taken probably 50,000 gallons of water, it would have went into Toll Creek. So we let it burn. That is one of the policies. So it's a national wide one. We're looking at we had a group from in Europe. They always seem to be more progressive than we are. And we had a group out from Sweden that have this, it's really interesting. It only uses a little bit of water, but what it does is it be able to puncture holes into the batteries to get the water in. So something that we're looking at. It's a little expensive, but it is something that we're looking at.
And that's what causes these massive fires on the electric vehicles, right? It is the
It's the
battery.
batteries.
It's the battery. Yeah, wow.
And the batteries, even in your e-bikes and those scooters, they've had, where people take those into their apartment buildings and then they overheat and they start a huge fire that we have a hard time putting out.
So I'm thinking my electric bike.
I know, we just too, but they're out in the
I don't have anything electric.
So I thought that, I thought that for the electrified cars, there was a special solvent or chemical that would be used for those batteries.
No, the foam, yeah,
The foam is not
it's
effective.
not that great. And neither is we have blankets that you can put over it,
Yeah.
but what it does is then it tracks. So when that's burning, it's also off gassing. So when we put the blanket over, it holds that gas and that gas is very harmful. Matter of fact, everybody that was at the fire, even the police officers, we had to turn their uniforms in, get them cleaned professionally. We cleaned all of our bunker gears professionally. And then, you don't want to breathe that stuff in.
Long-term contaminants.
Long-term contaminant.
So do you just kind of contain the scene and just let it burn? Just
That's
let
what we
it
did.
burn? Okay.
Yeah.
Burn for how many hours?
Just a few.
It burned for 19 hours.
Yeah.
No.
We were on scene for over 4 hours.
Oh, wow. That's significant.
Lithium batteries, yeah.
Crazy.
So,
Wow.
All right.
And that's all that I have.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have anything? Anybody in the room? All right. The next meeting will be May 8th, right here at 9 a.m. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.